This is for parents of ninth graders, eighth graders, seventh graders. I'm Mark Greenstein. I have been coaching secondary school for over 30 years. And this message is based on the experience I have, not as a parent, but as a remote guide coach, tutor, for 300 to 500 students a year. This is the time that I hope you can take more control if your school is at all dissatisfying, okay? Doesn't mean wholly dissatisfying. I mean, if it's wholly dissatisfying, most of you are out of there by now, okay? You're in a private school, good. But even if you're sticking with public, and you have concerns about how your kids are getting taught, what your kids are getting taught, how kids are disciplined, whether kids in the next supposed health crisis are going to be separated, masked, punished for being a little bit ADD, you can and I think should take communal control. That means not leaving it to administrators or even school boards, but instead parents grouping together with similar concerns that can go directly to teachers. Teachers, most of them are actually in your corner. Very few of them like what comes down from administrative on high. Very few of teachers like what school boards demand of them. They might really welcome your, not demands, but requests and be able to play to it. You could start small, probably should. Don't look overbearing, but little things that can and should be done on curriculum, on discipline, on how students will be conveying their learning back and forth. You know, whether a reversed classroom really is wholesome or not, whether assignments should be graded or not. These can and should be within parents' realm. I'm a history teacher myself, and one thing about American education history, parents used to have almost total control. They look back in colonial and early American federal days. There was no such thing as public education. It was all private, and it was very good, in part because a bunch of parents would get together and employ one person. Now, it was often a reverend because they wanted a religious component to kids' education, but even when it was secular, it was within the control of what parents were expecting. Even a century ago, as there were school boards, but school boards that were attentive to really what parents want. There wasn't a class of professional administrators with their own agenda like we have now. My dad, who was in public schools in city, Boston, 1930s, and he wasn't an especially good student, yet he learned Greek, he learned high-level math, he learned rhetoric, he learned astronomy. Many of these things aren't even offered today in schools. You could get an offering. If it's not within a school's budget, a bunch of parents gathering together can get a very good outside instructor. It doesn't have to be a reverend. Now it's a possible PhD who wants to teach kids the worldliness of rhetoric, the outer worldliness of astronomy, one afternoon a week, or maybe it's a morning weekend session. My firm facilitates this. We have something called learning coaches. So contact us if that has any resonance. And no matter what, contact other parents so that you can be a collective voice that has some control. Banding together works. What Ivy Bound does is come running when there is a group of parents with a curriculum that's desired. We call that the Learning Coaches Division. I encourage you and other parents to look us up, contact for the sake of your kids' development. I'm Mark Greenstein. Learning Coaches at Ivy Bound would be the place that I'm hoping to see you next.